All right. Okay. So, okay, so this is a machine with high disk storage and with high configuration, which can process request and send the response. Okay, so this is what does it mean by a server? Now, clients open a connection to the server. Next part is client sends the request to server. Okay, so client send the request to server. How do we send the request? We'll see in the session itself. So client sends the request to server. This client sends the request to the server. Now comes the third part. Server processes the request. Okay, so server processes the request. Now server processes the request for this server. Okay, so server processes the request. Server sends the response. Okay, so server sends the response. Something like this happens, and finally we are clients. Client closes the connection. Client closes the connection. Okay, so clients open the connection to the server, client sends the request, server processes the request, server sends the response. Okay, and finally client closes the connection. So this is what it happens. Okay, now in this process, okay, so this is a server which is going to share the resource, and this is the client. How do we do the same thing inside JavaScript? So there is something which we are going to see. So we want to learn about Ajax. Okay. So let's see what is Ajax. It says asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Now Ajax is a method to do this. Okay. So we already have that Ajax API or Ajax code in our inbuilt in JavaScript, which we can use. Asynchronous, any potential blocking operation is considered as asynchronous. Potential blocking operation means which we do not know when it is going to resolve. Okay, so which we do not know when it is going to be resolved. Okay, so that is called as a asynchronous operation. Now network request is something kind of like some kind of blocking operation. We'll see just in a minute. So what is Ajax? Asynchronous JavaScript XML. Why XML? How many of you know about? So do you guys know about XML? What is XML? What do we mean?
XML, like we can say, to load the data and display the data.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, obviously for like storing a data, so some kind of data, we use this XML syntax. So you see this. So this is a sample XML tag. Okay, so these are sample XML file. Basically, we can see that there's two student in over here with the student list, and we have two students inside them with the IDs. Okay, and this tag name are basically working as a key, and the value inside this is working as a value. Okay, so the tag name is working as a key. uh, and wants to something. Okay, you're seeing the same thing, right? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So basically, the key value thing was done. So in the previous time, in order to share resources, in order to share data between two machines, XML was popular and XML was used. Okay, so we were saying sharing XML string between two servers, and that was very popular. So that is where Ajax comes into picture. Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. So this is the XML part. All right. So what's next? So basically uses HTTP. Okay. So we'll just discuss about HTTP also. Okay. The second thing is how do we send a request? So here is XML HTTP request. Let's see XML HTTP request. Make a sample request. I'm going to make a sample request, guys. So we'll say sample XHR request. Okay. XHR means XML HTTP request. Okay, so what is HTTP? We'll discuss that part also. But before that, let's see. So where to make the request? Basically, all the URLs you see here now, you can make request to any of them. Okay, any of will work. But let's find a meaningful URL so that it also returns me some um, meaningful data. Okay, so these will return lots of data which we do not need at the point. So here's a website, JSON placeholder we call it. Okay, so they gives us some testing API, so we can use for that. testing. Okay, so let's use this for testing. And basically, so we can pick any URL we want. So here is a post/post URL. Let's check this out. Okay, now just click on this anchor tag and I am at this picture. So what do you think, guys? What is this data? In which format this data is?
It's a JSON format.
Correct, very correct. And what is JSON like? Normal JavaScript object, right? All right. So we can see that here's an array of object, and these objects are mere basic JavaScript objects with keys and values. Okay. So I hope you guys are getting this.
Yes.
Okay. One more thing. This is my address bar. You see this address bar? So when you just paste an URL and hit enter, so basically what you are doing, making a request.
Request to server that.
Yes, correct, correct. So which address is this, right?
Yes.
Okay. So whenever you type in some URL and hit it, so you're basically indirectly making a request to that server. Now, how do we do it with help of our XML HTTP request? So see this. There's already we have an XHR constructor. Let's use that. So XML HTTP request is something we already have in over here. Okay. Now XHR, let's say five steps of client server architecture. Clients opens up the connection. Okay. So let's see. So do we have something to open? Yes, we have a open method. Now, what does this open method accept? It accepts first argument as a method. For now, I'm writing get. We'll discuss what are methods, okay, and then we'll proceed. But for now, let's see that it is a get. First step, clients opens up the connection. Okay. Second step is clients send the request. Okay, client send the request. So this is a send method, and I can do xhrobj.send. Finally, client closes the connection. So I hope closing part will already be uh, done by when the send is done. So closing part will already be done. Okay, so two things. Clients open up the connection, client sends the connection. There are five steps, but if you remember, only in all these five steps, only two of them are related to client. Okay, so these this only three are related. So basically, the closing part will automatically be done. So first two steps we have written in the code. These two steps are performed by server. So we'll study in backend how these two steps are performed. But as of now, we need just to focus on the client. All right. So let's do this. So I have so what we did XML HTTP request. This gives some method to us. So we used XML HTTP constructor. This gives a XML HTTP request object. This object has two functions. First function is open, second function is send. Open receives the URL where we want to make the request, and send method is to send the request. Let's see this. Okay, I didn't find anything in over here. So in order to track the network request is you have to go to the network tab. So when I open the network tab and like make it bigger, you can see that there is a call post, and this is the same URL which I am doing with the XHR, and the method is get. So this and this is exactly the same thing, and I can say that I'm getting data in preview. So this was the same data I was getting when I pasted the URL in the address bar. Is this point clear, guys?
Yes.
Okay. So it means that code is correct, but here is a doubt. Like the doubt is, I know I can make a request, but what is the use if I don't get to like how can I get the data? That is a question. Okay, obviously like not we want to use the data also, so how to do it? So here comes callback into picture. What is callback? Okay, any function which runs based on a completion of a task. Okay, any function which is called or when invoked when a task is completed, we call that as a callback. Make sense? Okay, for example, on click, on load. Okay, so you had an event listener, you passed a callback, or inside the set timeout you pass a callback. Does this make sense, guys?
Yes.
All right. Similarly, I have something called as onload callback in XHR object. Onload will run once I get the response. So onload will run,
Response.
yeah, okay, correct. So it will run only when we get the response. So for this one, I have XHR obj dot. How do we get the response? We have something called as response, and this response will give me the response. One more thing. Okay, so this is
So
okay. Mm-hmm. Please ask.
I have one question here. The onload is function is load when we get response.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
So it's depend on the response code. Like it's a successful response. Okay, it's
Mm-hmm.
getting something error. Then it's also onload is working or not.
Okay. For error, there is something we have on error. Okay. So this is also a callback. So for error, we are supplied with a error object, and we get the error. So do we get supplied with the error or we get it from here? I guess we get supplied with the error. Otherwise, we can use a try catch also. So try catch is the that is a good code, so we can do that also. But here's the point, guys. So on error, we have another callback, and on load, we have another callback. Let's see this. Okay. So on error is a method. Okay, for errors, we'll check that also. So post is done. Okay. Let's see in the console. So I can see that I have all the data console over here. Okay. So what we did on load. I will do changes over here. So let me make it a bad URL. Okay, and let's see if what's the error we are getting. So I'll clear this console. I'll clear the network tab, and let's the request go. So it has failed. Okay, what is happening? So go to the console. I can see that progress event. Okay, it is a type error. So indeed we got something over here, but we need to do it in a good manner. So we are printing the complete error object. Okay, so we are printing the complete error object, and over here, we can find the error from it. But anyways, we'll see one good way to do this. Okay, so on error we get the error. So console dot. Okay, I did the same thing, right? Isn't it? Current target. Okay, uh,
Yes.
yeah. So so we can see that error name not resolved. Event loop dot line 38. 38. Okay, so obviously on the sending of the request. So this is what is happening. I'll just make it a correct URL. Okay, one question for here. How do I know already that XHR is asynchronous? Let me show you something. I just I'm doing this. Okay, so this syntax wise correct. No issues in this one. Okay. So what should be printed now? What do you guys think? What is the value of response? Okay, see this. So now instead of the callback, I have the response outside. Let me do this. I see that at line number 39, it's totally blank, nothing is being printed. What is the reason behind it? This request is successful. XHR.response is only working in the onload function. Why is that? Because onload, this XHR is asynchronous in nature. Onload waits till the call is complete. But if I put this console outside, okay, so it will not wait for the request to complete. So if it will not wait for the request to complete, what? So we will get an empty response. Are you guys getting this point? Okay. So this
Sorry.
Okay.
Can you please elaborate
Okay.
again?
Asynchronous is clear. What is asynchronous operations?
Yes, sir, asynchronous
Okay.
is clear.
So asynchronous basically means, okay. So JavaScript is synchronous in nature. Synchronous means it will run line by line. It will execute everything. Okay. But sometimes it
Yes.
identifies that this function is an asynchronous function. Okay. So this is an asynchronous function. To how to deal with asynchronous function? So JavaScript says give it a callback. Set timeout is a asynchronous function. So how to deal with that? Give it a callback. This is an asynchronous function. So what to do? Give it a callback. So every time there is a asynchronous operation, you will have a callback, because JavaScript will not. Okay, JavaScript will never wait for any async function. It will continue its execution for synchronous function. For example, will I run after request complete? So what do you think, guys? So will this console run after this, or it will run before this line?
Before this,
Okay.
I think before this.
Okay. So that is the same thing happening when we paste this outside, isn't it? So these two lines will
Yes.
run, okay, before this onload runs. That is why we are getting this as empty. Okay. So we are getting, so this is the last, so this is the inner one, but loop done will I run before, and this line is empty, which is line number 40. Are you guys getting the point?
Yes.
Okay. So this is how JavaScript manages asynchronous functions using a callback. So it supplies a callback, and callback takes care that whenever the call is complete, then only it will run. It will not run apart from that. All right. The second part. So the point is, how do you use it in our code? So that is one thing. So let's see this. This is related to something related to DOM, but let's see this also. So I want this response. Okay. So this response is in basically a string. Okay, so I can convert this complete string into a object. Okay, so how can I do this? JSON dot.
JSON
Okay, we know about these two methods, right? The parse and the stringify method.
parts.
Okay. So if we so okay, now data is shared over the server in form of a string. Now that is the reason we'll discuss why it is shared as an. We can see that we have converted successfully it into a object. Now it was printed as a string, but it is now printed as a object now. My point is, this is okay. Now since I have this with me, I can use it in my DOM. So how do I use it? Firstly, let data list equals to, so this is an array, and I am getting all the data inside it. Okay. And so I have a ul tag over here. Okay. It's an ul tag. Let's add some id. Let's say that list. Okay, I want to append all the users, whatever data I'm getting in the request. I want to append all these users id inside my ul tag. This is what I'm going to do. Now how do I do it? So how to get the ul element? How do we get it? With this id. You guys remember the DOM thing? What we said? Document dot get element by id. Okay. And supply the id. Since we have the id, so I can just supply the id once I have the ul element. Okay. So I want to create li elements for my ul and append it to the ul. This is very easy. What we can do? So we can Run a loop on this data list. What is this data list? Data list is a array, right? So I can say that run a loop on this data list. Okay, so data list, and I'll be getting this over here. So this is replaced with data list. Okay, so basically I get a single element. So basically this element is basically this object. Okay, so I have titles. Okay, so I can use this title in the li element and I can get the thing. So I will just use this title in my li elements. Okay, so similarly, so element. Okay, I have this. How do we create a element and append it to existing element? How do you do this? How to create element? So this is how we create element. We can say that we have a function document dot create element. Okay, so there's a function document dot create element. Here I can supply type of element I want to create. Okay, I have an li element over here. Now this li. Okay, so this li. So I have created a li element. Now I can put anything inside this li amount. So I can create one more tag. So li is inside a span and add to this li. But instead I can say that li dot inner text. Okay, and I have the element dot title I have. Okay, so I can simply say element dot title and the li is done. So this li element I created, I put the inner element dot title means the object which is having this title. Okay. Finally, I can just need to add it. So how to add it to the existing element? Ul dot. We have a function. We call it append, and this append I can supply a string. So I can basically say append child. I guess append child is the method. Append will also work. Okay, anyways, so I can append the li in over here. So this is how it works. Okay, so got the data, passed it into a JSON, valid JSON data, and created a li element, set the inner text, and appended the child into UL. Let's do this. So I will quickly come over here, clear this part. Okay, let's run this. So you can see that I have created a complete list based on a network request. Are you guys getting the point? Okay.
Yes.
So these are the same data we are getting from the page one. Now here's the thing, guys. If you just see, there was no page refresh. See, okay. Let me just do a hard refresh. Okay. So right click and empty cache and hard reload. Okay. So this is pending. Why is it pending? Okay, so we can see that it came after 7 seconds. Okay, so that what it makes it a asynchronous task. Okay, so since 7 seconds obviously. Now my point is, like, if a operation waits for this 7 seconds, like how slow the page will be. So that is why. Okay, you guys are getting the point, right? Okay.
Yes.
So that is why it is placed in a callback. So normal execution flow is not blocked. Okay. So event loop helps in this operation tools. So it says that you have made a call with XHR. So XHR will go in a browser web API, and the callback will wait here in the event queue. So once this is done, okay. So once the onload is done, the request onload is everything is done by browser. It sends the call into event queue, and call stack will still process all the synchronous tasks. Okay, so it will not halt any operation anymore. So this is the. And finally, so that is why outside all synchronous function are running before this send, even if we make the request before. Okay, so this is one point. All right, guys. I hope now you guys are like ready enough to know how to make a request. Create a object, open method, okay? Onload method, supply whatever you want to do. How to get the response, dot response. How to get the error, dot on error. How to send it, dot send. So this is the complete flow of creating a request. The other thing is, okay, what is this method? Let's discuss this also because the first argument was method, something get. Okay, anyone wants to say what is why get? Why I'm writing get? Okay, ठीक है. So there is some
So,
yeah. Go on.
no, nothing, nothing.
Okay. So there are some purpose of making request. Okay. So there these are the methods we see over here. So we see that if the purpose is to get data from the server, okay, so we do get request. If the purpose is to post or send some data to the server, we make a post request. If the purpose is to update an existing entity, we do a put. If the purpose is to update the data, so we do a patch. If it is to delete the data, it will do like delete request. Now my point is the example of get. So all these you see the browser tabs open. So when you type something in the browser now, it always makes a get request. That is always a get request. So you're wanting or fetching data from the server. Post request. An example of post request, guys.
Uh, if like in login function we can say in any Gmail like we have login in Gmail then we can use the post.
Correct.
We are
Makes
sending
sense.
the request authentication request and server response.
Correct. So we are sending some data to client, like we are sending our email and password to the client. So that is, so when you fill up a form and send it, that is a post request. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you guys have obviously you have filled some forms like online forms, they ask you to update your information and something like that. So when you are doing such kind of thing, you make a put request. Okay. And the same thing with patch. So there is a minor difference between put and patch. Basically, put says, let's say that my data is on Google server and I want to update my name. Okay, but I'm not so Google server. So I'm not sure that as a developer, I'm not sure that if this user exists or not. Okay, so let's say that I want to change my address. So first, if I make a put request, it will go to the server. It will check for my name and it will update my address if it finds me. But what happens if it does not finds me? Will it update? No, it won't be able to update. So it will,
Update, yes.
okay. So it will create a new entity. Okay, this put request. But patch does the same thing if the entity is found, but it does not create something new. If it is found, it's good. If not, it will not touch it. It will not create something. So this is the difference. Update if existing or create a new one. Patch means just update. If it does not exist, no, it does not matter. Make sense?
I think it's just you told us the reverse one. So input it's only update and patch they also create the new one.
Okay.
I think that is.
Are you
Yeah,
sure?
we can clarify with that
Okay. Okay, just I had an uh,
because sometimes in I'm in testing, so we are also checking with the put and patch. That's
mhm. Okay. Okay. So this post we do not need this ones. If you want to modify this entity later, we put a patch. A put might look like this, and a patch might look like this. Okay. Difference right away. That's put included all parameters on this user, but patch only included the one that was being modified. When put, it assumed that you are sending a complete entity, and complete entity replaces any existing entity at the URI. ठीक है, but the put and patch accomplishes the same goal. They both change this user email, but put handles it by replacing the entire entity while patch only updates the field when supplied Since put requests include entire entity, if you issue the same request repeatedly, it should always have the same outcome. Therefore, put is idempotent. Point is, okay, so put has everything inside it, right? So if
Yes.
even if something goes wrong or something is missing, so we are in the man that we can completely replaces the identity. So entity is there. So even if it does not exist, we can use put, but we cannot use patch. So patch is just a single information. So if it does not exist, we won't be able to create something. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that is what it is. So it is replacing the existing total entities, and we can use it to create also. Okay, so that is
Great.
the thing.
Yes.
Okay, but patch cannot do it. All right. So and delete, we know that this is a delete request. So this is what the method type were there. But the point is, XHR only supports get and post. So only get
Yes.
and post are being supported. Okay, we
Yes.
cannot.
Most of the for
Yeah.
getting post.
So this is not supported. But how to do this? We'll check this out. Okay, no, not an issue. Okay, we'll see some other methods. All right, JSON. Okay, so we are coming to JSON. If you want, okay, so there is something concept of REST API. Okay, go through it. Okay, we'll discuss this also. The other thing is JSON. So JSON. My point is, why did I? Okay, so why did I do this JSON dot parse on XHR response? Let me go to the default JSON website. So why did we do JSON dot parse? Because any data shared between the client and the server is in always in form of a string. Okay, so the data is always in form of a string. Even if it is a number or an object, it's always in a string. A string in an object, I cannot run a loop on it, or if it's an array as a string, so I cannot run any loop or do any operation. Okay, so that is why I need to parse it back to JSON. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, correct. So JSON dot parse, and the supply the string, it will give you back the JSON. Okay, JavaScript notation. Okay, and if you want to send the data again, so you have to do the opposite thing. You have to create a string from the JSON part. So JSON dot stringify to create it to string and send it, and JSON dot parse to receive and use it. But the point was, why are we doing this? This is the good question. So why JSON? Like, and basically why string? So the first question is, why we are sending as a string? Why not something else?
No.
Okay, because string are safe. Why it is safe? Suppose you have a friend, and that friends want to do some operations on your machine. Okay, so he sends you a function. Okay, he sends you a function is basically while true. Okay, and you open that in your browser. What while true will do? It will make your tab hang, or browser will be hanged, because that's an infinite loop.
Yes.
Okay, are you getting the point?
Yes.
So this will, so JSON, so the network will not let this happen. Okay, so you are not allowed to send a function. Okay, you cannot send a function. Not only function, you cannot send a large number also. You can, instead of a string, nothing is shared. So you cannot send a very large number, because that would be out of memory, and browser will throw error. So what if we have a 26, or let's say 29 digits number? So that is, maybe the browser can support, or maybe the browser will hang. That is why everything is sent as a string between client and server. So since everything is a string, so we have to convert it back to object. There comes the JSON dot parsenet. One more thing, one rule with JSON is, I want to show you something. So let's see this. So I have an object. An object can have both properties and functions, right? You know that we have this, and this object can have properties also and functions also. For example, there's a property A45. Okay, I want to add some more properties. B, let's say true. Okay. C, undefined. D is a method. So either you write D colon or the method, or you just write the function directly. It's the same thing. Okay? So nothing will change. So this is a simple method, not infinite loop. I'm say I'm saying simple method. So I cannot share this directly. Okay. So what I have to do? I have to say JSON dot. I'll say JSON string. I'll say JSON dot stringify and supply the. This is JSON string. So you see the JSON string. But see that the undefined and the function both have been cleared out. So you do not have this in over here. Automatically, JSON has removed these two things. These are not allowed. Okay. Some validation is going on. So this is how server saves us from attacks. Okay. So no one is able to attack us because I can send you any function. You run your machine and you send. So that function is just sending me data from your machine. Okay, that is totally possible. Okay, but we can. So this JSON conversion just clears or filters out these things. That is what we have in over here. So only these things are allowed. We can see that we do not have undefined. Null is there, false to array object number. That is it. All right. What else do we have? So basically, so this okay. Second question from this one: why XML is not used for sharing data? Why we are using JSON? What do you guys think?
Sorry, what is the question?
The question is XML HTTP request is also getting data in JSON, not in XML. So any special reasons why instead of XML we are getting JSON? Like why are we using it? Because
Uh,
JSON is easy to read, easy to send because it's just simple JavaScript object, right?
yes.
And it is in minimal. So minimal means like we do not have tags and all those things. Okay, so it is very less data, only key value, that is it, nothing other than key values. But if you see XML, so we have lots of tag, opening tag, closing tag, nested tags, and all those things. Confusing. Okay? So that is why JSON is preferred to share data. And not only JavaScript, all the language, most of the language supports JSON, and they like we have both parse and stringify part over there. So most of them have this feature. All right. Okay. This brings us to something like what's the protocol? This is a HTTP protocol. Okay? So this is a HTTP protocol basically. Now, HTTP protocol is basically hypertext transfer protocol. What do we mean by protocol?
Set of rule.
Correct? Makes sense. So, like specified rules are there, and that is called as protocol. For example, if a big chairperson or someone or any minister visited your city, you see that there are some actions going on in the city. Okay, so there are some rules they have to follow in order to conduct the operation. That is what we mean by a protocol. So hypertext transfer protocol has specified rules, and some of the rules will be followed in this server architecture which we just saw. That is why it is called as XML HTTP request. Okay. What's the next thing? So types of request. Take us to types of request. Now types of request are basically the same thing. Uh,
Okay.
okay. This get, post, put, patch, delete, and these things are there as a type of request. Is it clear till now, guys?
Yes.
Okay. Next is something. Okay, but before we move to this API, there's something I want to discuss about response codes. So whatever request we did till now, we just had something in the request. Let me do it again, and let's have some monitoring over. This is the URL we are getting. This is the method type which is get. We are getting a status code. Now status code is the response code which we just saw. Okay? So the response code means the response from the server. So when you have 200 to 299, it defines that that is a successful request. Okay? That is a success call. Whereas let's make a failure call. So I can say that from 2 and something something. So whatever the values are. Just a quick refresh, and I see that this is not being running. Okay, so I should have got some other status code. Okay, so this is a very
403 we can say so that server is like URL is not found 403.
yes, correct. So I want to make that request, but before this, it is okay.
The-
Apart from this one, I can do something like this. So let me have a refresh. Okay, so this is for field, and am I getting the request? Request headers. Okay, again, I'm not sure why it is not giving me the error code, but the error code in these kind of cases are 400 to 499. Will
409.
yeah, okay. We'll see this. Okay, so something I will just use the API and we'll see that. All right. So 200 to 299 is success. 400 to 499 is the failure. 500 and 599 is the server failure. Server
Server
failure.
response,
Yeah.
yes.
So that is the issue with the response time. And 300 to 399 is basically the
That's the redirections like if we redirected or
yes, correct. So that is the redirect call which we are having. And 100 to 199 is basically the um, options.
informational response.
Yeah. So informational call. Okay. So where we were. So this is the response code we are having. You can just check MD docs for once and we'll get that. Okay. Next point. HTTP is a stateless protocol. What do we mean by a stateless protocol? Any guesses? What is stateless protocol?
No.
Okay. So HTTP says, I do not remember who made the request. Okay. So I do not remember who made the request. What does it mean? Every time you make a request, you have to send all the data. Okay. For example, see this. I made the request. This was a post call. Apart from this URL and the method, there are some other informations going. Other informations are supplied as a, we call them as headers.
Okay.
Okay. We can see that there's the method, there's a scheme, okay, Google Chrome, and there's this, is there user agent, and all those things. So all these information. So will they go again? I just made the request. So let's see. Yes, they will go again. So every time I make a request to this URL, every time all the data is being sent. Okay. So it is not that the server will remember us. Okay, so you are the same guy who made the request. So that does not happen in the case. So we have the so this is called as stateless. They do not save any state or previous state or something. Okay. So this is what is HTTP is the stateless protocol.
So
Okay.
the session, if we store the data, we store the session. Like what is the session role? It's not recognized by or how the session is working. Like, I'm not able to understand. If HTTP is not record any maintain any record, and also same as a server is not recording. How the session is working?
So HTTP does not store information, but browser can store information, right?
Okay, in the browser, the session is stored.
Yes, yes. So even though you have session stored, the same data will go again.
Okay.
This time you do not have to put your email ID password because browser has already noted that. Okay? So so browser is saving just you, but it browser will still send all the data. Okay? Just our effort is less because we can use a browser storage or the session storage. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. We'll see. We'll talk about this storages also. Okay. Not an issue. All right. So what is course? So okay. Maybe we can discuss this course later on. Okay. When we discuss about the backend because it's mostly related to backend. But yeah. Hitting a public API. So we just hit a public API. So what is a public API?
Are they like they are open for anyone? They can use those API.
Okay. Makes sense. It is open for anyone. Okay. We do not require any user identification or authentication. Okay. Then we have JSON parse Stingify. This is an authenticated API. Okay. So this is a NASA URL which gives us images to use in our browser. You can just check this part out. You can check this out. So all right. What else is meaning for today? Are we good? Mm, okay. Let's discuss this one and then we'll discuss it later, all other things later. So there are some storages we have in our browser. So browser's storage. So mostly based on the URL we are having it. Okay. So where we can find it, you can go to application. So these are the storages which we are having. So we have local storage, we have session storage, we have cookies. The session storage is the same thing you just mentioned. Okay. We have the local storage and over here. How does it work? Let's see that also. And why do we have it? That is also a question. So when we do a page refresh, every data is gone from the page. So suppose that I'm filling a form and I did a page refresh, so my form will be empty next time because that was saved temporarily. Okay, but if I am running a site, let's say um, gaming site, and I want to store the high score, but if the user will come again, that will be reset. So that is not a good scenario. In that case, we use the storages. So you cannot directly store the hard disk of a user. That is not allowed using a browser. So we have something called as local storage dot. Okay, so we have something called as local storage. So this is one of the storage. How do we do it? So we set the item means we have a key. So let's say sample dash data, and I can store the data, store the value. So let's say 12. Okay, and I can fetch it also. So dot get item. I can simply say that sample data data. Why is this? Is it good? Because even after page refresh, I can get the data. So that is remains in the memory. Okay, and even I can run the same function here also. Let's go to
This storage is not working in like incognito mode or it's disabled in incognito mode. Like sometimes in previous we are using like Hotstar. It's a basic example. Previously we are using Hotstar. Hotstar given the 5 minutes free for matches after they
Mhm.
have required login.
Okay, okay.
But if we are using in incognito mode, then we close the incognito mode again, open the incognito mode, and again they are started the 5 minutes free.
Mm-hmm.
So that means it's not stored in the mm,
Okay,
incognito mode, or it's a
so
different approach in
okay.
incognito mode.
Every time you open a incognito, there is no data being saved. Okay, if it is open at the same time, if you just close your
Yes, yes,
browser,
the
okay,
same bar is open
huh,
if we open the same
then
time.
only it will run. Otherwise, it will once you close your incognito window, everything is reset. So the incognito means no data to be saved. It is saved only for that point of time till the window is open. Once it is
And
closed, all data
in
gone.
the browser, like if we are using in this without incognito mode in the browser, it's
Hmm.
a saved. And if we close and reopen the browser, then
Hmm.
it's saved or it's not.
Yes, so we'll able to access the local storage and the storage based on the
Okay.
URL. So these are based on the URL.
Okay.
Okay, so you can see that this is based on this file slash URL. All right. Okay. Let's see the cookie thing. Okay. We can just check the. Okay. Let's go to ambient box. But with some difference. So, ambient cookies. Some HTTP cookie, web cookie, browser cookie. So it's a small piece of data that a server sends to the user or the web browser. The browser may store the cookies and send it back to the same server with later request. So this is what is happening. So the data is still being sent. Okay? So even though you are not typing, so we are not typing it, browser will still send it with every request. Okay, that is what we feel that we do not need to type in our login password because browser is doing that for us. Let's see. Let's remember stateful information for the stateless HTTP protocol. Cookies are mainly used for three purposes: session management, personalization, tracking. We'll discuss this more when we move to backend, but yeah, like know that this thing also exists. Okay, finally the session part. Just a quick intro. Okay, we'll see this again. So opening up, okay, so it says that whenever a document is loaded in a particular tab, a unique page session gets created and assigned for a particular. So this is tab-based storage, okay, only for that tab. If it is not there, it is gone. Duplicating a tab copies and all those things. So we'll see this, okay, don't worry, but just know that
Okay.
this thing exists, okay, that is the point. All right, guys. So this is what we had for today's session. Let me find the sheet. We'll discuss about promises in the next session. And yes, we are close to ending front end and we'll move to back end format.
Please share the doc of also the JavaScript doc, please.
Okay.
The index of JavaScript those we are following right now. Thank you.
All right. Got this. All right. Please go through it and let's meet in the next one. All right,
Okay.
guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.